Welcome to this edition of Music for Dancers, where we're helping great dancers be better by understanding the music and making the most of the music and the dance. So today's topic is counting. Should you feel it or should you count it? Well, we'll discuss that in this session here. There's controversy about this, and musicians and dancers have been talking about it for years. So let's talk about the reasons why you might want to learn to do some counting as you're learning to dance. So here's a question for you. Do you have to learn to count? Absolute answer, no. You don't have to do anything, especially what I tell you. But every dancer I know that already knows how to count, that invested the time, got a huge return on that investment. And those people who know how to count and know how to dance well, I've just never had one of them say, boy, that was a waste of time when I learned to count. The knowledge they've gotten from counting has helped them be a better dancer in less time than if they were not counters. And a couple more points about this. Musicians have been having the same exact discussion for decades. They talk about there are a lot of great musicians who never counted in their life. There are a lot of excellent dancers who have never counted in their life. It is not a mandatory thing, but as an adult, it is a faster way to learn. It is foundational. It can give you guideposts, and it will make you a better dancer in less time. And there's one more important subject we need to discuss here, and that's that many people believe that if they learn to count, it will make them stiff as a dancer. And that's really a myth. What does happen is as soon as you try something new, like learning to count while you're dancing, if you have not done it, you are going to have a bunch of additional things happening in your head and with your voice. And that can make your dancing temporarily worse. So I'm sitting here telling you that we're gonna make your dancing worse, but only temporarily. Same thing with musicians. As they learn to count, they're in the early stages when they're counting and playing, and we're learning to play and work our instrument. It does slow us down. It does cause some things to be stiff because we're thinking too much and everything is overthought. But over a period of time, you get so much farther that the payback from it is awesome. So while it is important that you feel it, a drummer with a bad feel but who's playing all the right notes is terrible. We want the right feel, not just playing the notes. And when we dance, it's not about just hitting a line, these two lines. It's about how we hit them and everything in between. So counting is a guidepost, but it does not necessarily make you stiff. But long-term, big gains for you as you learn to count. Let's talk about this from a musician's point of view. By nature, any musician who reads music has to count. They go together. You really can't read music without counting. So what I'd like you to do, musicians would have the same problem. They're doing something very complex. And just like a dancer, we run just parallel paths with our musicians and dancers. It's amazing how many things are similar in the development of a great musician and a great dancer. It's wild. And so what I'd like you to do, please, is I want you to stop this tape right in just a second. Stop, press the pause, and there's a link. I'm gonna put a link right here on the screen. And you're gonna take this link and watch some musicians who are playing in the studio while reading this really interesting Latin jazz tune. So stop this here, take the link here, and it's just gonna open in another window. Watch the video. I don't wanna waste your time, but watch this thing and then we'll discuss it. I hope you enjoyed that clip, but the important point is that they were reading music. And you cannot read music without knowing how to count. You can even see some of the musicians when they are not performing and they're waiting, like the soloist, if they're not soloing right now, they're actually counting to themselves because they're tracking where they are in the music before they come in the next time. And when you see the piano player playing, he's not being stiff. The music is a guide, the count that they use is a guide, but it doesn't restrict their creativity, it doesn't force them to do something. And counting for a dancer is the same way. It's a guide that will help you. The better you get at it, the more mature you become, the more the counting will help you be a better dancer sooner. Now, like those musicians, Dancers who count also can learn things faster because they have some mental hooks, some places to put things. You don't have to be stiff just because you count. Now let's get one thing straight. If you go out in public and you go to a club, and you got a partner standing in front of you and you're counting, I'll say I don't know you. All right, don't do that. Counting is to help you learn, and you can count to yourself if you want in a club, but when you're working on your own, counting is excellent, but it's not something that you do when you're with somebody else and dancing. That's part of the learning process. You never get over counting. It's not like you grow out of it, but counting will become internalized by doing it enough externally in the short term. Once again, counting helps us with self-correction, meaning you don't need an instructor, you don't need me, you don't need somebody else, an external person to say, whoops, Don, you're wrong. You will hear it as you're talking out loud and see yourself, the action of having it all occurring at once. The talking, the listening, and the doing, some action, will make it to where you can self-correct when something is not on the timing that you wanted. Ultimately, you also develop a feel. Musicians, like you saw in that cut that we looked at earlier, they play ahead and behind the time, but they always know where it is. And by the way, in their headphones, for commercial recordings, they almost always have a click track playing, which gives them a reference point. But for our purposes, counting out loud is an excellent way to provide guidelines and self-correction so you can learn faster. Over time, you can count in your head, but while you're learning and every time you're practicing, count out loud. Remember, the rule is feel it, yes. We definitely want to feel the music, and we can do that. Counting does not mean we don't feel the music. They're complementary. It's not an or equation, it's and. Feel the music and count it too. Out loud, especially when learning. We definitely want to be out loud, and it will accelerate our learning over time. So somebody who may be counting at first, if they've been dancing for a little while, at the very beginning, they may be stiff. But like those great musicians on that clip we watched, that's just a matter of time before we now have that count working for us and helping accelerate our learning. Now, I hope I beat that up enough that counting is going to be something good for you. And what I'd like to do is the next tape that we're going to do is going to have some examples where we're going to actually play air piano, and we're going to do some exercises to start utilizing this counting and then understanding the music, because it's all going to come back to the same principle once again. Music has structure. I know you're sick of that, but that's a principle that will be universal and is going to help you as a dancer as you listen to more and more songs. Your dance will reflect the music. You'll have more musicality than the next person. And please rate this, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. We want to see you on the next one. Put comments below. Check out the links on YouTube at the bottom of this for more information. And there's 180 articles up there on dancing on unlikelysolcero.com. So we'll see you in the next Music for Dancers cut.